7, count 'em, 7 dead bodies strung up in front of this fine Institute of Justice. 7 corpses on a string, and not a single cop noticed it happening? And we can't even cut them down till forensics goes over them. Anyone want to hazard a guess on how this happened? Because this is going to make us look great. The media is going to set up shop in my ass. This is going to make that goddamn podcast fiasco look like a weekend in the Hamptons.
Welcome back to another episode of Spawnography. I'm your host, Pierce Leiden. Pronouns, they, them, here with, as always, my wonderful co-host.
I almost stepped on it. George Marston, pronouns they, them, or she, her, and I am wonderful, and so are you, Pierce. How's your weekend been?
It has been pretty good. I went to a Hudson Valley Renegades game. They are the single A affiliate for the New York Yankees. They played the Brooklyn Cyclones, who are the single A affiliate of the New York Mets. So it was like a Yankees-Mets game for a bunch of players that'll either never play for the Yankees and Mets, or will get traded for players who will play for the Yankees or Mets, or who will play for the Yankees and Mets in like 4 years.
I bet it was a good
That was
game,
really
though.
fun. It was, I mean, the heroes won. So a fun thing also about the Hudson Valley Renegades is that their logo is not a panda, is a raccoon. His name is Rascal.
Okay.
Also, I don't know if you know this about minor league baseball affiliates. Sometimes this is a baseball podcast. Welcome to this baseball podcast that is also about Spawn sometimes.
Baseballography?
Sure. So minor league affiliates can be owned or sort of be affiliated with different major league teams over the course of them existing. And I don't remember how or why they switch teams and then get totally new rosters, and sometimes they get different colors and things. But I think I haven't even looked into this, but the Renegades, so like Vanessa grew up near where the Renegades play. So she's like, oh, I've gone to this stadium like a bunch of times. I've seen this team a bunch of times. And I was like, oh, the mascot's name is Rascal. And she goes, no, it's not. It's Rookie. And I was like, I don't think that that's the case. Apparently there was a lot of teams do like gendered mascots. Weirdly, there's usually a male and a female version of the mascot, I guess, like Mr. and Mrs. Met. The Phillies don't do this. They only have one monster. Anybody that's
canonically non-binary, I believe.
Yeah, and a fucking menace. And sent a woman to the hospital with a hot dog cannon.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I was thinking of Gritty.
Gritty is an owl.
Who's a hockey mascot, right?
Right.
Not a soccer or whatever you're talking about.
Right. So V and her sister were just like, no, it's Rookie, and I forget the girl version of the raccoon mascot name was. But now there's a new raccoon mascot, and has been since the year 2000. His name is Rascal.
Oh, so woke reboot.
He does not date a raccoon. He dates a skunk, and her name is Rosie.
Wow.
And so there's
a
lot going on there.
It's really something. Athens, our newest team, is a minor league hockey team, which just started last year, I believe, called the Rock Lobsters.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
The name was decided on by a public vote.
Amazing.
For the people of Athens, and that is, of course, a tribute to Athens' finest, the B-52s.
Incredible. That's awesome. There's the Rocket City.
One time I did karaoke with Fred Schneider from the B-52s.
That's pretty cool. Was Michael Stipe
he just showed up randomly.
Was Michael Stipe
It was
standing
the
in the
same
doorway?
bar. Same bar where that happened. Not the same night. For those who don't remember, I live in the town of Athens, Georgia, where I just fucking fully dox myself. Where
Yeah,
REM and the
Athens, Georgia has
B-52s
one
are
house in
from.
it, and it's
That's
yours.
true. That's right. And you often see members of those bands around town when they're in town. Sometimes they travel out or whatever. But yeah, there's this little bar, RIP Go Bar. I think it's like a taco place or something now. That used to be a really fun little DIY club. Played many shows there, hosted a lot of shows there, and they used to do karaoke. And one time Fred Schneider just showed up and did like some Elvis songs. And then this dude, I'm not going to say his name, but he's a character around town of his own, got up and did the most fucking shitty rendition of Rock Lobster right in front of
No.
him. But during it, at one point, he held out the microphone and Schneider walked up and was like, Rock Lobster. It was so fucking funny.
That's brutal.
That dude, the dude who was doing the karaoke, is notorious for showing up at karaoke in Athens on shrooms and just singing cat sounds instead of lyrics to like whatever song. Just like meow, 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 meow.
Wow.
Yep,
Well,
really something. That's what it's like in a small town.
Athens I mean, listen, I went to school in New Paltz, and as soon as I got into Athens, I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
Got it.
I mean, it is absolutely a college town.
Yeah.
So
Cool, weird little college town, like run by hippies and weirdos. Sick.
Oh, it used to be. Now it's run by
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it
conservative
changes over
douchebags that-
time.
yeah, over the last 10 years, it's gotten pretty crummy in some ways. I mean, I still love this town. I live here for a reason. But, you know.
I hear you.
Anyway, I saw Weapons. We talked about that briefly before the start of the show. By the time this comes out, there won't be like, it'll be late enough that people will have seen it. But I won't spoil it here because Pierce hasn't yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
It's quite good though. Early recommendation: Weapons by Zach Kragers.
Fuck yeah, Barbarian was awesome.
Barbarian was fucking great.
One of my favorite theater experiences.
Didn't see it in the theater, but I did see. I highly recommend seeing Weapons in the theater.
Saw in the theater, and like that was like V was just like gripping me, like gripping my arm, like she was just like, ah! It was great. It was awesome.
I watched it at home. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, and just like great crowd reaction overall. Like people were really disturbed and scared, and it was awesome. I mean, that's what you want from a horror movie. It's
absolutely. Awesome. That's another one I won't spoil on air just because I really feel like that's one of those movies you should go in without knowing anything.
Gotta just watch it.
But I will say I watched it with my girlfriend and our roommate, and there were moments in it where all three of us were like, whoa, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
So
one of the great scary basement movies.
We were also talking before we started recording briefly about Christian superhero comics.
we were.
Which
the only ones that I've like really encountered as like true Christian superhero comics, but that are not true superhero Christian comics, are like sort of like Tijuana Bible type, like that kind of size.
Right. Little pamphlets
that are like, Jesus man will save you. And it's just like kind of Superman. And you're just like, what the fuck is this?
I have to look this up real quick. It was, okay. So in the 90s, I have these somewhere, probably still. Okay. Do you know the publishing company, Thomas Nelson?
No.
It is just a like worldwide well-known publisher of Christian materials. So in the 90s, in 1993, they partnered with Marvel Comics to release several comic book adaptations of classic Christian stories, including the story of Easter, C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters, and the one that I had, The Pilgrim's Progress. But they also created their own specifically Christian superhero, the Illuminator. and he was created by Glenn Herdling, who also wrote, Submariner for
Yeah, I was gonna
Marvel,
say that sounds familiar to me.
and artist Craig Brasfield, who I don't know from anything else. So he is a science student from Tennessee. And during a night at summer camp, he's basically bathed in the light of Christ, and he gets like light powers. He gets the power of like light, luminescence, etc. And then he starts fighting demons, and he realizes that his power is from God. And his powers are only as strong as his faith. I like that on the Wikipedia page, it lists his partnerships as God.
Wow.
So, yep. I also had Christian action figures. They were like little GI Joes, the size of GI Joes basically, but I had Jesus and Samson. Somewhere I have a little Jesus GI Joe figure.
The biggest like superhero Christian thing, and I think we've already talked about Bible Man, but like
Oh, Bible Man, of
is Bible
course.
Man.
Played by, what is it, Willie Ames
Yeah.
of Charles in Charge fame.
Of our days and our lives.
That's right.
Days and our nights.
Of our
Days and our
wrongs and our
right. Yeah, days
rights.
and our nights.
Definitely that. Yeah.
So the only other like Christian sort of Christian adjacent thing I can think of is that there was that Rob Liefeld
Oh yeah, he did Rob Liefeld's Bible.
comic.
Pretty awkward every scene where they had to wash someone's feet.
But that's I'm surprised. You know what? There probably is like the Covenant. That's what it was called. The Covenant. It came out like 10 years ago. And it's only written by him. It's illustrated by Matt Horak. But
Okay.
boy, oh boy. The Covenant is Samuel and some of his friends trying to get back the Ark of the Covenant. So it's like
Okay.
not Indiana Jones and also not technically a story in the Bible. So
Great.
whatever. That's fine, I guess.
You mean there's not a rollicking adventure about stealing back an artifact in the Bible? Pierce, I've read the Bible, and I think most of it is about the U.S. Constitution. And if we know anything about the Constitution, it's that Nicolas Cage found a secret hiding inside of it, and that turned into Night at the Museum.
That's a great point, actually. And having been the sleepover supervisor for Night at the Museum, I can corroborate that is all true.
I spent the night in the museum thanks to you one time after I did a little work for the museum. And that was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. It was wild seeing fucking Robin Williams. It was not long after he died. And there he was.
Something popped up on my like one of my random feeds, probably on Instagram, of the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword ad that Robin Williams did. He's a huge Legend of Zelda fan, notably because he named his child Zelda. And it's both of them, and it's him with the Wii, like using it
that's great.
bow and arrow, because that's what you could do in that game, which is, it made me sad because I love Robin Williams.
By all accounts, a cool dude. A lot of stories I've heard about him showing up at like Midtown Comics or the original Jim Hanley's universe and just buying like a shitload of rare toys and comics and like being super chill to everybody. And you know, R.I.P. to a great one.
Wonder if he likes Spawn. Robin Williams goes, come on the podcast.
Robin Williams would have been a really fucking crazy clown. Not to take it away from John Leguizamo, but
you know what? Actually, yeah. That would have been sick.
Would have been creepy.
Anyway, we're right in the middle of the first arc after the Summer of Hellspawn.
Yeah, we are. And there's some interesting stuff here that I think actually, reading parts of this arc after reading Hellspawn, I was like, okay, I get where this is coming from now. it can't possibly have been chronologically intentional in that way, but you can see how Hellspawn as a side title was trying to match those vibes so that when you read them back to back or side by side, it feels like you're getting the bits of the same conversation.
We've said
They're
it
in
before and we'll say it
conversation with
again.
each other.
The Blake Whitlow reading order is a little bit genius, because if you're really trying to read this stuff and really try and parse, like, what is the order that all this stuff exists in the way that Spawn experiences it,
Right.
it very much feels like Hellspawn just finished and we
Yeah.
are in post Hellspawn now.
Yes.
Even
Yes.
though, as we've said before, Hellspawn finishes in 2003, we are still in 2001.
Some of that is us retroactively looking at this with the, the lens of what's come before and kind of writing history backwards. But I think that's what's great about it. And I think that shows how well the two titles work as companion pieces, because you can carry over things that happen in one to the other without it necessarily having to be a one-to-one kind of thing. But like, there's stuff in these issues that deals with Spawn's interaction with the Throne of Hell, stuff like that I think reflects stuff that was going on in Hellspawn in a cool way. So now that we're digging into it, Pierce, why don't you please hit me with those credits?
All right. We're going to first get into Spawn, number 109.
Wow.
Todd McFarlane and Image Comics present The Kingdom, Part 3. Plot by Brian Holguin and Todd McFarlane. Story by Brian Holguin. Pencils by Angel Medina. Inks by Danny Miki, Victor Lozaba, Alan Martinez, and Crime Lab Studios. Lettering by the legend, Tom Warzakowski. Colors by Brian Haberlin, Dan Kemp, Haberlin Studios. Cover by Greg Capullo. Dedicated to Rick Reckadal.
Okay.
Do you know who Rick Reckadal is?
I bet it's some sports guy or some shit.
It's not.
Okay.
On his LinkedIn, it says, I'm passionate about... Blah, 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 blah.
Okay. Wow.
On his LinkedIn, it says, I'm passionate about the power of storytelling to inspire and transform. I've had the privilege of creating and launching global merchandising and publishing programs for major film and entertainment properties, as well as creating original publishing properties. He worked on B-Movie.
Okay. Insert the script of B-Movie here and triple it. Gets faster. Have you seen those videos? The videos that are like the entirety of B-Movie, but it gets faster every time they say B.
Oh,
like
yeah.
It doubles in speed.
Also, he currently works at the Belmont University.
Okay.
By the way, this is all
founded by Simon Belmont of Castlevania
of course. And he was the executive director of Christianity and the Arts.
Wow. How fuck about that? We've come full circle with this shit. Wow. It's interesting because these latest issues have dug more into the concept of Christianity and how it fits.
That's very true.
So it's interesting. I wonder if he must have worked on some merchandising for Spawn or something like that. Maybe.
Well, I looked up his IMDb as well.
Mm-hmm. His IMDb.
Nice. And I was like looking at it, and like his credits are light.
Okay.
If I look on his LinkedIn, I mean, he was at DreamWorks, right? He was at DreamWorks for 21 years.
Wow.
So he's at DreamWorks at the time that this comes out, and I wonder if
were they doing music videos or something through DreamWorks?
Possibly, no, because that's still like early DreamWorks is still very Spielberg. But they could have been, because the G is what's his face from it's David. Oh my goodness!
McFarlane Toys struck a deal with DreamWorks to release action figures to promote the movie Shrek.
There it is. It's a Shrek thing. It all comes back to
Todd
Shrek.
McFarlane was also in charge of character and set designs for the Shrek Xbox game.
Wait a second. Todd McFarlane specifically, or McFarlane Productions?
Todd McFarlane. Todd
I have so
McFarlane.
many more questions. I have so many more questions for Todd the next time we have him on. Where I'm going to be like, Todd, tell us about the journey of
I'm
Shrek.
trying to find what it looks like on the Xbox. Okay, it looks like fucking
Probably
Shrek.
looks like shit.
I mean, it looks like an Xbox game.
Let's
see here.
Is Shrek's design inspired by Clown?
I'm looking at well, no, Shrek goes way back, and his design was a long process. There's actually a really great episode of the podcast, What Went Wrong About Shrek. Highly endorse that.
Is it really short and just say nothing and then it's over?
No, it's actually really long. It took them like 25 years to make that fucking movie or something. Or 15 years or whatever. Anyway, yeah, okay. Around 2000, this is from from Wiki Shrek. Around 2000,
place you never thought you'd go. You're on a list now, by the way.
Yeah. Around 2001, McFarlane Toys struck a deal with DreamWorks to release action figures to promote the movie Shrek. Besides the toys, Todd McFarlane was also in charge of character and set designs for the Shrek Xbox game. This caused the art direction of the game to almost deviate from the more pseudo-realistic look of the film, going for a dark, slightly twisted style. Most of his designs were also pitches for potential characters to be featured in the film. While his art direction would be praised, the game itself would be poorly received. Some critics noted how dark the game looked, which could be traced to his art style, not leaning well to a 3D game with distinct lighting and textures. Some of his designs would carry over to the GameCube port, Shrek Extra Large, but he would have no major involvement. Trivia! He personally sent a prototype of the Duloc mascot figure to Shrek director. What is it? Fuck, I clicked away from it by accident trying to see what the fuck a Duloc. I think Andrew Adamson is his name. Let's see here. Thanks, computer. Okay. He personally sent a prototype of the Duloc mascot figure to Andrew Adamson, director of Shrek. Upon removing the Farquaad head, Adam quickly noticed that the figure was molded after his likeness, which greatly pleased him.
That's cool.
And of course, the Duloc mascot is the Duloc dancers with the giant Lord Farquaad head. I mentioned this on the podcast recently, but earlier this year, my partner, who also helped with the vocals on the Summer of Hellspawn theme, played Fiona in Shrek on stage, and it was really great.
Why does our podcast... I guess our podcast had to have a distinct connection to Shrek because...
An inter-Shrection?
Oh, boy.
This is Intershrectional Podcast.
Is there a podcast out there called Shrektile Dysfunction?
I fucking hope not. I don't know. That seems like a subreddit that I'm not visiting or something.
Anyway, that's who this guy is. He worked for DreamWorks Animation. Yep. I guess that's how he knew
probably Todd. He probably helped make the deal because he's in charge of merchandising. It said,
and then he became the executive director of Christianity and the Arts at Belmont University.
Well, also, just
also relevant to these issues.
It all is full circle. Look, everything is everything. It's all a web. These synchronicities are all part of the new age of ISIS. It's all happening just as Crowley predicted. And I could talk about this for another 45 minutes and bore and confuse everyone, especially me.
Great. Well, on that note, we opened, last episode we praised Angel Medina's art. And I want to say we opened with a banger.
This issue is a little different from last issue. I actually went back to look and see if there was any different artists. Because Medina's cartooning is a little different. I want to say it feels like he had a little less time. That said, looking at this in the compendium, what I get is the final page of the previous issue and then the other perspective on it, which is the first page of the next issue. In the previous issue, it ends looking down the cluster of bodies that are hanging there.
We're coming from the top and now we're at the bottom.
This issue, it starts with Sam and Twitch looking up, And yeah, the cartooning here is great. I love this guy with the big bushy mustache
Yeah,
over on
he's
the
great.
side.
I love the
Sam's
guy that
face
also
is
just
like,
has
oh
his gun out.
geez. Yes, he does. Which if you're a cop, you're probably come out blasting. Especially if you see someone who's already dead or injured, got to take them out. um, you got to make sure the job is done. Now, I want to say last issue, I thought this had something to do with what Spawn did because I thought some of these people were people in Spawn's vision. I think I misinterpreted it slightly because I know we will find out where these bodies came from. It is not Spawn, but I think it was the people he was seeing because he was trying to track down the source of evil that had touched them or whatever.
Yeah,
We
I
will
don't think that
find that out.
I don't think that he has rounded these folks up.
No, I was kind of conflating it with the Arrow when he was just like killing everyone who like transgressed a little bit.
I
I
think
think
that's the intention.
I think you're right, and I think that's why I interpreted it that way.
Yeah. And like I had read ahead a little bit and I was not keen to correct you because I think many things in Spawn are open to interpretation. And
Well,
also,
also, you don't necessarily want to spoil like what the question lingers for longer than this first page of this next issue. And I think it's meant to raise the question because as we are entering into the first like little chunk here, we have that rant from the chief of police that I did at the beginning. I was definitely trying to channel the police chief from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
absolutely.
And you trying to tell me how to do my job?
Miss O'Neill, are you trying to tell me how to do my job? Anyway,
I will.
I'm going to see that, by the way.
Fuck yeah!
On the 18th, a week from tomorrow,
that
because
rules.
it's being re-released in theaters.
Oh, for what, the 35th anniversary?
Yeah.
So I gotta check that out. One of my all-time favorite movies still holds up. I will go see it. Absolutely.
It's only playing for 4 days between the 16th to the 20th. Little fucked up that they didn't re-release it in March because that's when it came out.
But this is my birthday month, so I can get people going. Last year for my birthday, I tried to go to a baseball game, and it was rained out by a McFreaking hurricane.
So sorry.
Oh,
that's a bummer.
And
now you hate baseball.
Yeah, that's right. I'm the enemy of baseball. Everybody knows it. They have pictures of me in every stadium. They say, don't sell this person hot dogs. They don't deserve them. If this person tries for a foul ball, knock them over the wall.
I've never caught a foul ball.
Me neither. I've only been to 3 baseball games.
I have caught a t-shirt, though.
I think I've told my t-shirt cannon story about, Anyway, so we got the chief of police. He's like foaming at the mouth over these bodies, and why wouldn't he be? And much like I was speculating that maybe this was tied to Spawn, so are Sam and Twitch. And they're kind of quietly implying it to each other until the chief basically tells them to shut up. And because of their talkativeness, he assigns them to solve the case. He tells them that everyone, including God himself, is going to be breathing down their necks. Oddly prescient from this police officer who doesn't really realize what he's getting into here.
He does also kind of look like William Murderface from Metalocalypse.
He kind of does. Murderface.
I imagine that maybe that's Murderface's dad.
Yeah, that's Bill Murderface Sr. Yeah. So we cut to Ab and Zab, who are running from Spawn, who showed up to hunt them down in the last issue. Angel Medina's Spawn is getting cooler and weirder, and like he's got this kind of cool rendition of the cape, almost as this sort of like living, flowing part of like Spawn's body.
He's kind of being like, oh, it's a living thing. I'm just gonna draw it like if Venom was goop all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's almost like, the Sandman when he's like bottom half is sand. Sort of like that. The cape wraps around Spawn and becomes like this sort of floating kind of like very Dracula-ish.
Very rule cool. Of cool. But yes. I love that he doesn't, there's no like rhyme nor reason to why it materializes, except that also that looks cool. I love this section where they're like, Spawn, we're sorry, the whole Armageddon thing, it was Malbolge's. And he's like, Malbolge's dead. I killed him. What was his is now mine. And it's this shot from like below.
Yeah.
and it's awesome. And it
Oh
is
yeah.
reminiscent of the stuff that Capullo and McFarlane would do by putting something in the foreground, giving us a crazy angle. I think that McFarlane, in talking about the way that he draws in general, he would always be like, how many planes are there on like a hand? Like, yeah, you could make it
Yeah.
really simple, but like, what if I did like something weird?
Yeah,
Then
he's
there's
got
a
the
million different
Dracula
planes.
hands, the claws.
Yeah, and I think that they're taking that note and kind of running with it.
Absolutely. I will say, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but this silhouette in particular almost looks like the throne when he's saying that.
I think that is intentional.
I think you're right because it's specifically when he's invoking the power over what Melbolgia used to own, which,
Hmm.
as we learned from Hellspawn, is something that he specifically kind of rejects. But here, having come through Hellspawn, this is one of those things where I was like, I like this because in terms of our continuity order, not so much release order, but continuity
Right.
order, this feels very much like him being like, so if it's gonna be on my back, it's gonna be in my possession. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's gonna exploit it to the limits he can use it to his advantage.
Right. And I think to that end as well, right? Hellspawn, I kind of see it as like as we're kind of like moving through and moving past Hellspawn, and also it's had more time to kind of percolate in my own mind. It's kind of like the last temptation of Spawn in a way,
Yeah.
right? It is that like now, granted, that's not a great one to one, not to bring more religion into it, but
Well,
it's not
what if
like
we think
he's
of that as like a title that
exactly
represents a kind of journey for someone more than an allegory?
sure, but he's definitely realizing what his power could be in a certain way.
Yeah.
And so he has at this point sort of rejected the throne and moved past it for now,
Hmm.
but he's so intimately aware of its existence and the power that it holds over the other denizens of hell that he knows he has more power than. And he's
Right.
using that to his advantage. And I think that that's really, we said this during Hellspawn, this is such a more self assured character than we've gotten really in the past.
Yes.
And it's
He's
awesome to
channeling
see.
that sense of like ominous like presence that he has in Hellspawn too.
I'll say this again. I don't. This arc is making me think like, why do people go read the first 100 issues and then skip ahead? Because there's really good stuff here.
You know, I don't want to say this as a generalization about Spawn fans by any means, because as we know, as part of the Spawn community,
Right.
Spawn fans by and large are really cool people who just
And
want to have
hugely dedicated.
really great fun with a comic. That said, there is a tangent of fandom, and I've said this before. I'll say it again, I'm sure, because it's one of my most common rants right now in terms of the comic community and industry. There is a strain of fandom that is just a joyless factotum who
Mm,
doesn't actually enjoy stories, who enjoys collecting bits of comparative information and continuity baubles. And they're the people who will be like, in Spawn issue 17, and now we have been this way too as part of an analysis.
sure.
I think there's a difference between a textual analysis and making this your only engagement with a comic. They're
I
the
think we're,
people who
we're able to
all
quickly let it go. We're not trying to be bogged down by it. We are
there are
recognizing
people
a contradiction and then maybe moving on from it or trying to no prize it.
exactly. And I think that's part of reading a text. I think that there are exactly as you said, people who don't want to move on from it, who to them it's like, in Spawn 17 he says and does this, and in Spawn 119 he says and does this, and therefore you should just not read 119 or whatever. And in some we've talked about this before as well. In some ways, Spawn is one of the few American comics where you can almost do that because the through line of creativity is not it's not like how people want to look at a manga as like, oh, one guy did 1,000 issues.
Right.
Not usually the case. It's usually an army of people working on those things, much like American comics. But excuse me, people want a creative consistency where it's like, oh, I can count on the same voice being involved. And Spawn technically has that, not always as the primary writer, artist, or creative voice, but Todd McFarlane's always involved in Spawn. There's not been a point where he's abdicating Spawn. There is that creative through line of him like having a say or an idea or like a thumbs up or thumbs down as the
Right.
creative director or whatever of his baby.
What's interesting is that I
Sorry, I'm
do
hearing from
think.
our third co-host right now.
Oh,
My
your
creaky
squeaky
ass chair.
chair.
Yeah, I need to get a
Listeners, you
better
don't know
chair
how much
someday.
creaky chair I cut out of every issue or
I'm so
every
sorry.
episode. It's totally fine.
I need
One
to get a
day,
better chair.
well, dear listeners, if you have a better chair, let us know. A quieter chair. But no, one thing I was going to say was like, we've brought up Hellboy as a sort of comp for Spawn in a way, in sort of overall vibe. Spawn is now getting to an era of you don't need to read this in order. You can kind of just if you really like a story, you could almost recommend. I almost feel like I could recommend this arc
Mm-hmm.
and just be like, yeah, I don't know, here, you'll just generally get the idea. Like this kind of has all the characters that are relevant, and it doesn't have the Wanda stuff, which I know a lot of people are very connected to and like really hold as uh, extremely important to the character.
I don't think this
However,
feels like it's missing anything as a result. It doesn't
yeah,
feel like they're not part of this world. They're just not part of these issues right
I
now.
think similarly too, not to like bring Dave Sims up, but like fuck that guy. But I think with Cerebus being kind of the indie inspiration for what Spawn is in a way, at least
Spawn kind of
the
took the mantle from it as like the longest running or one of the longest running independent comics.
exactly. So I do think that there's a hey, check in when you want to, and Cerebus has that feel of check in when you want to, and
For me, that's basically never at this point.
I mean that's fair. But anyway,
No, there is some great cartooning and stuff in Cerebus, and there's a reason that for a long time it was incredibly widely read and popular. It's just Dave Sim had a fucking mental breakdown or whatever it was and started saying incredibly strange misogynist shit.
and publishing long rants about it within his own comic book that people continue to buy, and I have one signed copy of.
Pretty weird.
It was given to me by my LCS, so I didn't buy it.
Oh, sure. I just mean it's weird that what happened to
No,
him.
no, no. You called me weird. It's fine.
We're Pierce. If you're weird, I'm fucking strange.
What's going on here is, yeah, Ab and Zab are there. They're apologizing. He's saying Mabulja is dead. I killed him. What was his is now mine. That means you belong to me now. And Ab and Zab, as minor demons, as we've kind of like learned, fall in line like pretty quickly. They're like, okay, cool. We got a new like guy to work for. Kind of love it. One of the things that we've wanted is like more minor characters that work in and around
Yeah.
the events of Spawn. We love Ab and Zab because they're kind of silly,
Yeah.
and this works. I kind of like that he's got like two minions who are idiots.
There's a
They're
kind
like
of
Bebop and
madcap,
Rocksteady.
yeah, or like the classic like Disney movie like two weird sidekicks or whatever, comic relief kind of, but they don't come off as obtrusive to me. They come off as like gnarly kind of like uncouth demons, and I like
Yeah,
it. They're also, of course, Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves, or Beavis and Butthead, or both, kind of a melange of those
for
things.
sure.
Um, but yeah, he is telling them basically go find Max, the son of Twitch, Max Williams. Unfortunately, Max is caught up in some crazy shit because he has fallen in with a young woman named Dawn, who, along with sort of seducing him, is secretly a vampire. And here
Yep,
they she shares something with Max. She kisses him, and then she bites her lip and feeds him her blood. Here she says, come here. He says, whoa, what'd you do? Are you okay? And she says, kiss me. And he says, it's like I'm on fire inside. And he starts just drinking of her like a totally ravenous vampire, because he is, a what shall we call it, a fledgling vampire.
Yeah, he's now been sort of like seduced by her vampire wiles.
Yes, as many, vampires are creatures of seduction, especially in our modern
I'll
conception.
say this: I kind of like this whole sequence. I think it's pretty well cartooned overall.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the coloring's interesting.
It is like it's got that bluish green tint.
I mostly uh, from the previous issues. All right, like mostly from like Dawn's Race.
Oh, well, let me look back.
She's like
She's okay. I think that it is intentionally that she was meant to be.
was she meant to be black and miscolored in the first couple issues?
I think she's just colored with very light skin in these first couple issues,
Okay,
because
so
if you
she is
look,
meant to be black.
I believe so. I believe
Okay,
so. That
then
is
she's
my
colored
understanding.
correctly here.
Yes, I think they were like, okay, we need to tone her skin a little differently.
Okay, okay, that's fine.
I mean, I get why you're asking, because it's not
It's
like there are huge inconsistencies in like how people of different races and different skin tones and stuff are portrayed across
typically
comics.
that has not been a problem in this book because we have some very specifically black characters, so we have seen them as black characters.
Yes,
And this was a character that I was like, when I read this, I was like, wait a second, hold on. She's colored in the way that I expect like Wanda to be colored.
right. Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of an inconsistency.
Okay.
There's also the possibility that her ethnicity is not necessarily meant to be like
True.
determined offhand, which I kind of don't. I'm not saying we're doing this, but I kind of don't love trying to parse that kind of stuff because it's not
Yeah.
necessarily material. I think what we're trying to figure out is a discrepancy in the coloring, because there is a change. I think that this is my interpretation based on what we've seen of Spawn before and how they handle that kind of evolution. This is probably closer to what was initially intended, and they were like, "Well, we can't just redo the last book. Let's get it right in the next one."
Yeah. It's
I mean,
a
we've seen that before,
it's a weird thing though, because for this we're both reading from the compendium,
right?
and the inconsistency still exists. So
There's a lot
I
of
don't
stuff
know.
in here that is not retouched. A lot of stuff is
That's
reproduced
true.
exactly as it was. There are a few
We've seen that
things
in the
that changed in
lettering,
earlier volume.
for
Yes,
instance.
exactly. There are things they changed with like Tony Twist, but even some of that got through. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
so
Anyway, hey, a note for everybody. It's something we noticed.
the
We
coloring
brought
is
it
a
up.
little inconsistent. I think the intent is there. Um, she's always been a goth. Let's just go ahead and say she's
Oh yeah,
certainly
she's super
a
cool.
goth, and so maybe that is the most important takeaway of who she is, and a vampire. Um, we as Max is drinking her blood, cool. Um, we'll get into some interesting blood drinking stuff in the next issue.
Yeah.
I'll go on a tangent for that. We'll get into it. Here we have Sam Burke, of course, our hero Sam, being interviewed by the news about the case of the strung up corpses. And he's like kind of getting irate, trying to tell them, I have no comment. I have no comment. And he says, listen, you limp bleep, sons of bleep. What bleep part of no bleep comment don't you understand? Now crawl out of my bleep, you little bleep, before you bleep, bleep, bleep. That's the other one I was thinking of, was having Sam do a rant and just have one of those words be podcast,
Be
which
pretty
is all the
fun.
bleeps. But anyway, we
But we
didn't do
didn't do
that.
it.
Nope. Look behind the curtain. So we cut to inside where Twitch is kind of talking to him about, he's kind of razzing him a little bit about him being so angry on the news. He says that they're still waiting for the victims to all be identified, but it looks like none of them knew each other. The funny thing is, he says there's a window of only 6 minutes where someone could have strung up the bodies. And when he looks at the security camera, they're just the place is clear 1 second, and then the next second they're
Yeah.
hanging there. Very mysterious, which again lends the theory that Spawn could have teleported them there or something, because Spawn's capable of doing things in an instant like that, walking between those kind of little raindrops of time. So he lays out his theories. Twitch lays out his theories. He says, number one, some person or persons who are just plain crazy, a madman. Number two, someone with a vendetta against the police trying to make us look bad. Number three, someone who's trying to make a statement to send a message to society. Sam says 1 and 3 sound a lot like the same thing to me. If you want to make a statement, you take out an ad in the post. And then Twitch says there's the unsettling theory number 4, that what's going on here is way bigger than any of us. And boy, little does he know exactly how right he is. We cut back to. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I like that they know about Spawn a little bit more intimately now, and they leave that door open, and that's been a fun kind of development for them. And
the Spawn signal and all that, and like them kind of realizing like, oh, this guy's fucking some kind of crazy magic shit.
Exactly.
Guy's fucking some kind of crazy magic shit. I don't fucking know. No, bro.
But as you were saying, we're gonna cut back to Maximilian Williams,
who is just sitting there jonesing for Dawn to show up, basically because he's addicted to her blood. And she tries to calm him down. He's kind of freaking out. He jumps on her and starts trying to drink her blood. She says, take it easy. I love this next panel where it's like his twisted up face. He almost is like a Kermit the Frog, like upset face. And he's like holding his hands like, what's going on? And she says, don't worry, I can make it better, but not out in public like this. And she takes him down into the vampire lair. Meanwhile, Ab and Zab are lurking around in the alleys when they uncover something interesting in a dumpster. Now, I want our readers to know that what they find in this dumpster
is your favorite character.
I actually enjoyed quite a bit in this form. We'll talk about it. So before we see what they find, we cut back to Twitch, who is on the phone. Twitch looks like fucking Vegeta here.
He looks awesome.
He's got the Saiyan hair. He's
this is a different Twitch than we used to get, right? This is not he's so much with his son is in danger, and he has taken on this much more he's just taken much more control of the situation as much as he can. And Sam has actually kind of
they've switched a little bit. Sam is a little more measured towards Twitch and is kind of there being like, no.
He understands that I think Twitch needs to kind of take the lead on this one because he has such a close maybe, relation to
the case. Yeah, exactly. Because his son is missing, and we're seeing a Twitch who is far less composed than he used to be.
Right.
Here he's talking to his wife and he's saying, I have some help. Someone's out there looking for him that might be able to find him, trying to explain like, he's not exactly a friend, but he's someone I've worked with. As he goes in the mirror and washes his face, or goes in the bathroom and washes his face. And as he looks up, the steam from the mirror says midnight. We take this to mean Spawn is contacting him.
Yeah.
So we cut to a gang of vampires on the street looking cool as fuck. If I saw this gang of people walking on the street, I would be like, oh, I want to be part of them. I want to wear a fishnet shirt and Jinkos like I used to do.
I like that one of them just looks like Paul Schaefer, though.
That's true. He really does. He looks like fucking Charlie Brown. No, he really looks like Paul Schaefer.
It does really look like Paul Schaefer. He's wearing the glasses and he just looks like Paul Schaefer is just a vampire in his off time.
Gotta say, I wish I could go back to the fashion I had when I was like 16, 17. My favorite outfit was these huge Jinkos and like a fucking like fishnet shirt.
George,
and like,
don't let your dreams be dreams.
The only reason I don't is because Jinkos are like $500 fucking dollars now, because that much denim in 2025 is like,
Well, tariffs, you know.
well, I mean, before the tariffs are going to make $1,000 fucking dollars for Jinkos. Which, look,
Yeah.
I would love to have a pair of Jinkos. They are, you don't know what's under there. You know what I mean?
Anyway, these vampires show up and they're
They beat up these
harassing.
people who they say are just not Christian enough for them.
Yeah,
They say they are taking the Lord's name in vain. Thou shalt not covet, thou shalt not steal, as they're, I think, stealing they're
stealing a
stealing a
car.
stereo or stealing a car.
Yeah,
Um, and the vampires, while quoting scripture, start to almost kill these people until Spawn shows up and says, "Let them go." I love some of the renderings here. The one in particular that I love is the panel. Okay, there's the panel across the top of the vampires all like pouncing on them. A little
him like
harder to read because
jumping.
the coloring. It's okay, but I really love the panel, the third one down, of the guys
This
like
one.
sneakers flying.
Oh yeah,
That one I really love. And I also love the one of the guy's fangs as he's about to bite her throat. Spawn shows up and he's like, "Let them go now." And they're just like, "As you wish," and they all leap on Spawn. There is a very, I'm noticing in this issue in particular with Medina, there's a very Joe Mad quality to some of these
I was gonna say there's
characters.
that one panel where Spawn's like charging up his some
Mm-hmm.
energy, like an energy
Mm-hmm.
ball, and his bicep is 3 times the size of his head.
Oh yeah, his hand there is awesome. This whole sequence looks, it looks of its time, but also ahead of its time in some ways, because
Agreed.
of the speed lines and the composition are a little more like manga influenced.
We're in that weird little period in 2001 that is like between what we think of as the 2000s and what we think of as the 90s, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
There's like a
This
few
is
years
this is
there
like one of
where we
those
can't really
evolutionary titles, and like,
you kind of can't really pin it down perfectly.
one thing that I have loved about Spawn so far, and we've talked about this at great length, we've gone so in depth in the art, is that in a lot of ways, Spawn is a document of what comics looked like from the early 90s on. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. In a more I think in a more in a more intentional way than we see in other titles, because I think other titles sometimes would jump to something different so
Right.
drastically,
When you
and
look at like
sometimes
90s X-Men, it have 5 different styles, and sometimes
right,
they were competing and sometimes they're, but yeah, I think you're right that there's more of an intentionality behind the evolution of the art. There's only a few hands that have been in the pot at this time, you know what I
right.
mean? So
I
the
was even
evol
thinking like Spider-Man, because you get like 90s Spider-Man with, Todd the God, obviously,
uh-huh.
Eric Larson. But then as you get into the 2000s and you get John Romita, you're like,
You get that
okay, but it's that John Romita of the 2000s
kind of
that
the
is
height
that.
of his powers, really.
I don't know. John Romita, he's a tough one for me. I do think you're right. I think he is at probably the best he's ever gonna be, but I also think it's the beginning of some of his like bad habits that I think are not great, because I
That's
do
fair.
think that his X-Men work is really, really,
His
really
X-Men
good.
fucking rules.
And
The
so
first X-Men issues that I ever read were John Romita issues.
but I was gonna say then there's an era of like, it's Dan Slott. I mean, this is like we're talking a little bit later now, but it just jumps to like Paulo Rivera, Marcos Martin, and those are weird almost throwbacks
Yeah.
in a way that like
So good though.
they're incredible. They're incredible artists. But what I'm saying is like it is not and even on Daredevil, right? Paulo Rivera on Daredevil and Marcus Martin on Daredevil, right? Like,
It's an
um,
intentional return to a more classic looking
right.
style.
Whereas like you don't ever get like a throwback 60s Spawn.
No, and that would
Not
probably be
not
cool.
It
Not
would
in the
probably be
main title
extremely cool.
though.
Not in the main title. This is what I'm saying. And so what
Yeah.
I'm just agreeing with your point of
Yeah.
it is an evolution of art moving forward.
You know who this kind of reminds me of a little bit, especially through this fight sequence over these next couple pages? A little bit of Scott Collins.
Oh yeah. I can see that, especially these lines and this like big burst of green energy.
Yes,
like
that's exactly the specific panel I was looking at was him like sweeping his arm out, like the inking in the clouds and stuff.
George, you and I have been doing this for a minute.
Yep, we sure have. We sure have. I love this whole fight sequence where he's just taking on the vampires. The art speaks for itself through a lot of it. They're kind of exclaiming. I like that Haberlin takes the opportunity to pull back. I know it is a question for many people, or a question of taste, whether you are okay with long stretches of minimal text on a page. Some people, I know that we've had guests even who have said, when I open a book, I want to actually read the words. And I know other creators and friends that have that same opinion. I think if a sequence works artistically and doesn't need extra text, here I'm so glad there's not bubbles of it being like Spawn's cape defies gravity as the chains, blah, blah, blah. Like sometimes that stuff is great and sometimes it comes out really cool prose. But here we just don't need it to sell the action.
Yeah. We get that great panel at the top that we were talking about, and then we get one quick little bit of dialogue from one of the vampires saying, like, that's enough, let's go. 2 panels of them running away. And then Spawn kind of sort of reflecting almost on what's just happened. And he actually has his hand like up by his face.
Well, because
slowly comes down.
Because he's seeing something that will be revealed in the next panel.
Correct.
Which is, or in the next page, there's a sequence of his eyes going super confused. And
kind of sad.
Yes, because he's like, oh shit. Because what he sees is this massive tower stretching into the sky, almost like one of the spires of hell that we have seen, except this one is heavenly in nature. It has the like the lion kind of gargoyles. It looks very sort of angelic in a twisted way,
and it goes up forever, which is my favorite detail. Is that it goes all the way
like one of those spires of hell. Exactly.
Really cool. Really cool.
I love the parallels that continue to be drawn between heaven and hell, especially the stance that has been taken by this comic now, which is those are 2 sides of a coin. And while they want different things, ultimately it has the same result for the world, which is one of them having total control over everything based on their chosen morality.
That will bring us to Spawn number 110, The Kingdom, Part 4. This is all the exact same credits, so I'm not going to read them all again, but it is dedicated to Carmen Bryant. Carmen Bryant is the executive director of public relations and marketing for McFarlane Toys from March of 1997 until today.
There you go.
So
we are in the era here where Todd's toy empire is really expanding.
Ooh, it is cooking.
Like we've gone beyond Spawn into like they're doing the movie Maniacs and stuff now, and the like Kiss figures, and I think they had a whole line of like Clive Barker figures that came out, and like they did like the obviously
Austin Powers,
Shrek. I had one of those Austin Powers toys. All kinds of stuff. So they were, I've said this before, one of the first companies to really define the quote unquote adult collector market. It caused everybody to start chasing that. Toy Biz changed everything around that. It's just an interesting kind of evolution. And now, of course, most of the like toys that come out are marketed specifically towards adults. Marvel Legends, for example, are very clearly marketed towards adults because they do like limited edition drops and all this stuff and shit that kids don't care about.
I just bought 3 Marvel Legends that come with magic cards.
Yeah.
That shit ain't for kids, but I did buy them. I'm going to say this. I bought them because there's not a Man-Wolf figure before that.
No, and it's a
It's the
sick one
first
too.
Man-Wolf figure, and it's really fucking cool.
It is. It's the
The
like fantasy hero version.
so cool.
So
So
sick.
cool. I had to get it. I was like, this is
Yeah.
fucking awesome.
Yeah. So Spawn number 110 doesn't have to do with any of that shit.
No, it doesn't. Sorry.
That's all right. People like it. They love it. They love when we do that.
I've been told.
So
We can
it's
only
been
give
said.
what the people want.
You got to ask. So Spawn number 110 starts with Sam and Twitch waiting around for Spawn. They are there. It's after midnight, and Sam is kind of like, how do you know this is the place he even meant? And Twitch is like, okay, I don't. It was an educated guess. But, you know, we know what happened to Spawn. He wound up fighting a bunch of vampires and discovering this weird vampire haven. Finally, Spawn arrives. We get that same kind of like cool looking like Angel Medina, like flowing river cloak, but he's got like his one foot stuck out to the side.
By the way, Angel Medina really locking into one page establishing, double page spread.
I wonder if that's a Holguin thing too. Like it might be like, let's do that. But yes, that is a style that is happening here.
We're like really locking into it. It's a lot like the early issues of Spawn, where I mean, it would be you'd
open with a splash page, and then you'd get the like, yeah,
you know, you'd have to turn the whole comic book. But yeah, it is. It does make a statement. I do think it's like a good little technique.
Yeah. So finally, Spawn arrives, and Twitch is kind of marveling at him. It says, it describes Spawn. I actually really like the description here. The dull rattle of hell-forged chains, the deep basso rumbling of the muffled voice startle him. It's been years since William and his partner Sam Burke first encountered the mysterious being who calls himself Spawn. Every time he sees him, it sends chills down his spine. He looks at the black and crimson figure that stands before him and wonders, who is he? What is he? What dark secrets lie hidden in the shadowy folds of that blood-red cloak? Now, they know that he used to be Al Simmons, but
last couple issues ago, though, they were like, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Simmons," and he was like, "Spawn."
yes, he is. That is a running theme now, is that Al Simmons is officially dead. Spawn is
the only sort of personality we're dealing with here.
Now, I will say,
identity that we're dealing with.
My interpretation of the ending of Hellspawn in retrospect connected to this is that was Al Simmons getting to move on. Maybe not necessarily literally, but we can kind of see the ending of that as his side of the story a little bit, as opposed to the Spawn side of the story. Because we've seen Al Simmons outside of Spawn multiple times in these comics.
I have seen that. I kind of saw that whole arc and Hellspawn included as like the Spawn personality is now like becoming a bit of a trauma response. That like Al Simmons has been through so much at this point in life as well as in death that he is cutting himself off from.
He's trying to move on. It's his way of trying to move on.
He's trying to move on. And so his only way to move on, though, is to become Spawn. He has to become only Spawn. He can no longer be Al Simmons. It's why we see less of Terry. We see less of Wanda. We see less of that kind of sadness and kvetching about.
We moved on from
Jason
Wynn at this point.
Right. So. He's not concerned with that. He's concerned with something else. We're not totally clear what it is yet. But I do see this as like, this is the shield, and it will be interesting to see how that develops, because I think that's actually a really interesting way to take the character. It is not unlike the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh for more in Morrison's sort of approximation of it, where that sort of personality takes over to protect Bruce Wayne, to protect that identity.
There is a lot of controversy around the concept of dissociative identity disorder. I don't necessarily want to get into the details around that. But I do definitely think there is however we define it, however it exists, it's different in people. I'm not taking a stance on any of that. I'm not a psychiatrist. What I'm
Sure.
saying is, in my experience, and I think it is very true of other people, it is very easy to develop that kind of, as you said, trauma response where you suddenly build armor around yourself or you switch yourself into a different gear.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have that feeling. For me, it doesn't feel like a different personality or something coming forth. I'm not claiming anything like that. But it feels like a switch in attitude of like, okay, I now have to be this way because of these external stimuli. I have to respond to that by putting up the carapace or whatever it might be. And I
I think
think you're
that
right
that's an
about that.
I think that's an inherently like queer experience.
Oh,
Is it
absolutely.
it is something like it's like code switching. I mean, like I think that's the softest version of it is code switching. Like, and that can be code switching. Obviously, can be used in many different ways. For anybody
There's
that doesn't
also
understand what that is, it's just acting differently in different situations. As
right, especially like the way you communicate with people and
correct.
like the tone of your voice even sometimes it goes pretty deep sometimes and it's a very real thing, but also it goes along with masking is a thing that is like for I assume everyone knows what masking is at this point, which is where you are putting forth a public persona that you expect will meet the standards or expectations of people around you,
Correct.
rather than necessarily like reflecting your true inner self. I took a when I was taking autism tests and stuff. I took one that was like a masking test, and I scored so high on it in terms of like how much masking takes place that I was like, I don't know if I even have a real personality anymore, actually. I was like, this has kind of talked me out of believing I even exist.
So what
But
you're saying is you were smoking.
I was vaping. Um,
uh,
but you know
so
what
wait,
I'm saying? Like,
do you consider masking like almost specifically autism related or no?
no, I don't think so. I think it is. I'll put it this way. I think that it is a very strong autistic and neurodivergent trait.
Hmm.
I think it's something that is strongly associated with people who have, you know, those.
I've only heard of it in that sort of
I
like.
think there is a reflex that maybe we don't necessarily use the same term of masking if you're not experiencing it as maybe a symptom of your neurology. But I
Hmm.
think on a social level, everyone does a version of masking at some point. Even
We
if
kind of
you are,
call so code switching and masking almost being synonyms.
they're similar. I would say they're similar things.
Similar
I think code
situations.
switching is a little more community oriented. Code
Mm,
switching
okay.
is something where you're kind of you are falling into a community presence. I'll give an example. Code switching is very specifically oftentimes, and I'm sure our listeners know this, used to explain people who switch between, say, standard common English vernacular and African American vernacular English,
Mm,
depending on who they're speaking to. That's kind
sure.
of one of or other cultural relationships like that.
Sure.
Masking, I think, is more of a personal identity thing where you're not joining in a culture that you belong to. You are trying to meet a standard based on a series of rules and thoughts that you're trying to accommodate in your
Hmm.
behavior. It is a recognition that your behavior is in some ways not acceptable or inexplicable, or that you are trying to relate to people. For me, how it comes off a lot of the time is I try to have a very specific demeanor when I'm talking to people, and I have to choose that demeanor. If I
Mm,
don't sort of put on that mask, my true self isn't bad. It's not like it's hard to explain this without having some internalized concept of it in yourself,
sure.
but when it's almost involuntary, but it is also an intentional thing where it's like, I'm going to be very friendly right now, and I'm going to be very polite, and I'm going to be very accessible, versus sometimes when I'm like, I need to be very aloof right now. I need to be very aggressive. I need to do these things. And you can make it, there is a feeling of knowing that's what's happening.
Mm.
And it's not like switching personalities or something like that at all. It's not that kind of a thing. It's not that neurology. It is just trying to blend in socially, and to meet expectations of like social groups and stuff.
I think what's interesting as we sort of talk about Spawn is that, and again, we're not trying to psychoanalyze Spawn, as neither of us are professionals that are qualified to do that. But
No,
as the
and
characters, and also maybe the writers are not either. I'm not going to say that they are, they aren't. I don't know that they are, they aren't. I would assume
well,
that they
but
are
there's a
not.
specific storytelling device going on here that is very
Sure.
valid, which is him trying to leave his old life behind and become a very different person. And part of that for Spawn here is definitely him putting on a persona. Like when
Hmm.
he talks to Sam in Twitch now, he's more Batman like, he's more grim, he's more ominous. He's a little less
Forgive
like,
me, I was detained is such a funny line
right,
if you
like
think about Spawn 100 issues ago.
exactly. He's a very different presence here.
Yeah,
And okay, there's an
absolutely.
old parable. I can't remember. I don't remember the exact source of this. It's a common parable, and I think it's something that goes beyond the concept of masking to a concept of social interaction, which
Hmm.
is there's the concept that everybody has three faces: the face you show the world, the face you show the people you're intimate with, and the face you only show yourself.
Mm.
And I think those are very real qualities of social interaction. Whether you experience some sort of neurology that leads you towards masking, PTSD can also be a huge driver of that. I don't want to say there's one.
Which I think PTSD would be something pretty relevant to
Absolutely, to Spawn in
Al
particular,
Simmons slash Spawn,
on
right?
multiple levels.
Yeah.
So
So
we are so deep into this fucking
I know. I'm
episode, and
so
we're
sorry. I wasn't trying to like derail too much. I just think that
no, it's an interesting concept,
I think it's
and
interesting, and I think that again, said it before. This is a rich text, and
yes,
it brings this out in us as critics and as folks that are trying to.
I would much rather have an episode where we dig deep and have a conversation than just be like, yeah, and then two more pages, then two more pages, goodbye. Like if it doesn't engage us on that level, it doesn't. But when it does engage us on this level, and we start talking about how we relate to these characters in this way, in this sort of deeper level,
Yeah.
I think that shows the power of the writing. And it's like you said, you don't need to skip these issues of Spawn. These are good
No, I
issues
think
of
they're
Spawn.
really cool. They're really
Maybe
rich.
they're not milestones every time, or if you're doing the like speed read of just the most important issues or whatever. But I don't think that's necessarily the right way to read a comic, at least not for everybody. I don't think it's a
Yeah.
mandatory way to catch up on a comic. I get why some people go for that. I also think that there's a lot of value in these issues. This is cool Spawn stories.
Yeah.
Like, if the reason you're reading Spawn is for cool Spawn shit, it's in this comic.
Also, I will throw this out to listeners. If you know somebody that knows about the stuff that we're talking about in more depth than we do, that also reads Spawn, that wants
We'd
to
love
talk
to
to
hear
us
from
about
you.
it, please, please, please. We'll talk about. I would love to diagnose Spawn with a professional. No, but I would love to have a conversation about
No,
it at least.
absolutely. I think it'd be interesting to talk about that. So again, I am in no way. All my experience with this comes from my own. All my understanding of this comes from my own experience with it,
Sure. Yeah.
and from my own
Same.
interactions with these concepts. And
Yeah.
I'm not claiming to be an authority. I'm just professing my understanding. Don't diagnose yourself by what I'm saying or anything like that. Just know that whether you have a neurological trait that leads you to mask as part of just your way of interacting with the world, or you are just a person who has a certain kind of inner self versus your outer self, it's something relatable to us. I think almost everybody has gone through a period in
Yeah.
their life
Definitely.
where you intentionally try to be something, where you intentionally try to embody a certain style, or a social group, or whatever. We talked about Don being goth. It's a great example of like trying to fit in with that. You have to decide that. Most people don't just like, their parents don't just buy them goth clothes and you just happen to dress like that. You decide, I'm going to start fitting in with this crowd, and that's how it goes. Speaking of goths, Ab and Zab show up along with Spawn because they have information about what's going on with Max.
They have a little more than information.
That's right. They're bringing back your favorite character and mine, none other than Wolfram.
Wolfram!
But he's just a big old bloated maggot-filled head, and I think that's great. I think he works so much better as a severed head who's just weird. I love how Ab and Zab are, he's kind of Michigan J Frogging them, where they're like, talk to us. He told us a bunch of stuff when we fished him out of the dumpster. And then they have to like light his hair on fire to get him to talk.
I like this sequence a lot, actually, for
I love the art
Medina.
on the 2 pages here. Yes.
It's really, really fun. It's pretty inspired, actually. Like
it's great.
The kind of like he gets his hair set on fire, and then we get these like 3 panels of his eyes. They're getting shout out to the colorists. His eyes are getting a little bit more yellow as the
and he's furrowing his brow. And then he goes, we got to the page, he goes, son of a bitch, what the hell are you doing? I don't have enough problems without you lighting my friggin' head on fire. And Sam and Twitch are just like gobsmacked. They are dumbfounded by seeing this disembodied vampire head telling them about what's going on. Meanwhile, Sam and Twitch are kind of like, what the fuck?
Meanwhile, we're going to cut back to Max and Dawn.
Yes.
And I like the narration here. Max feels like hell. His stomach is knotted into a tight little ball. His blood burns like battery acid in his veins.
So some bursts are more difficult than others. I'm sorry, but in the end, you'll be okay. And this is classic vampire lore stuff here, where like maybe you turn into a vampire and it really fucking hurts and it sucks. Or sometimes you become quickly empowered. I don't know. It's just a thing. At the same time, Max is kind of like begging for Dawn's help. And she has dragged him into the vampire lair. We see they almost look like the Invisibles standing around.
I was just going to say that. This is such like an Invisibles would have been just before this it would have come out, because this is right before New X-Men.
Yeah.
So
you got definitely looks like King Mob in the background there.
Paul Schaefer looks like King Mob now.
Yeah. And they are investigating, these vampires are showing up to confront Max, and Dawn is saying, these are my family. This is my family. Meanwhile, back with Spawn, he's interrogating Wolfram. I like Wolfram in full monster head form. I think he looks a lot more interesting. Also kind of reminds me of Headlopper by Andrew McLean. Fucking great comic where he carries around Agatha's head.
Absolutely. One of the greats. Yep. One of the greats. Have all of it.
Me too. I think I do.
Oh, anyway. And I have the witch head t-shirt.
Hell yeah.
It says don't lose your head.
That's sick. Great art, great comics. Anyway, speaking of great comics, Spawn shows up to intimidate Wolfram, and Wolfram's like, oh god, I should have run to that dark hole. I'm a nice normal vampire. Got bit, lost my soul, became a creature of the night. But these fanatics, these guys, they're fanatics. They believe they're the chosen ones. This goes back a long way. Now, here we get some very interesting stuff, which is basically the explanation that Jesus is a vampire. Yeah. He went around embracing people as a vampire by having them drink his blood. Now,
this is hilarious.
I like it because it's very like... It's very blasphemous in a fun way, which I'm capable of experiencing. And it is interesting how it takes all these different ideas of like what Jesus is and how we interact with the concept of Jesus Christ. Like Jesus being a vampire, I feel like is something that that a lot of atheists are like, Jesus is a pretty weird dude. He wants you to drink his blood. Like, come on.
I'm like, yeah, he's a vampire.
Yeah. The interesting thing about it is, and I don't know if you know that much about this, but there is a long-running story that the first vampire was Judas, who was turned into a vampire. He hanged himself over the 30 pieces of silver for which he sold out Jesus Christ, and was resurrected by the spirit of evil or whatever. So it's interesting that they're like, Jesus is a vampire here, when there is a mythological sort of theological context for the idea that Judas was the original vampire and that it was his sin that like cast people into darkness.
What's really fun about making Jesus the original vampire is making Judas the original Van Helsing.
That's also true.
And
This is a weird, interesting
the
bit.
30 pieces of silver. I mean, I
Right.
know that's werewolves, but
But
like
nonetheless, I mean, vampires sometimes too.
vampires also sometimes are weak to silver, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
fun.
So, yeah, he embraces all of the 12 apostles as vampires as well. Meanwhile, back in the vampire lair, Max is like, "You guys drugged me." And he's saying no. Or they're saying, blah, blah, blah. Max is saying, "You guys drugged me." And they're saying, "No, we didn't. This is real. We're fucking vampires." And Dawn is explaining, "Isn't this what you wanted? You wanted to have a carefree life where you didn't have to worry about, like, your usual hangups and stuff." Here, though, we learn the history that throughout Europe, Asia, colonial America, they were feared and persecuted, called names like undead, wampir, vampire. When they were caught, they were burned at the post or had stakes driven through their hearts, cursing revenge with their dying breath. And that's really kind of a classic vampire origin story. And I like that Sam is like, "That's insane. That story can't be true." And the disembodied head of Wolfram is like, "Yeah, right. And my rotting severed head can't possibly be having this conversation with you."
I love Wolfram now. I mean, I liked him before.
I like him better now.
I also love pushing Sam and Twitch into this mode. Spawn was one thing. They could kind of handle that because also, if we are to believe that this was set in the Image universe, like the idea of young bloods of superheroes was like not super foreign to them. So, okay, another like superhero guy who wears a cape, whatever. That seems fairly normal. It's gotten so much worse for them.
I know. So Spawn knows where these people are. Wolfram kind of tells him a little bit about Simon Pure and his scheme of like turning everybody into vampires, or killing them. Either join them or die is kind of their refrain. Meanwhile, we cut to Beth and Archie Weller.
We get a very Chris Claremont section
Yes.
here. I've called this out
Yes.
before, and I think that every X-Men podcaster has called this out as well. So I'm not taking credit for it. But whenever you get a first and last name for a character that you've never seen before, they are so goddamn fucked. And
It's
especially
like a red shirt.
When they get this much backstory,
oh, it's
over.
We meet Beth and Archie Weller. They don't go out much anymore. 6 years ago, Beth spent a month in the hospital after being mugged. So she and her husband have been shut-ins basically for years. But they decide to go out for Beth's birthday. Archie says he wanted to treat her to a night in the town just like the old days. He's wearing his little party hat. They get on the subway on their way home from a lovely night out. They decide, you know what? Things aren't so bad. There's nothing to be scared of. We love the city. They get onto a subway car, and what's in there but a whole pile of dead bodies.
There's a Creech.com.
Creech.com. I saw Warcry got balls. Let's see here. He had long tentacles on his head, and it was huge. Bear Elegance, the bouncer Henry Akins, learned to swing dance. This is funny. Anyway, they are terrified and they will be basically scarred for life by this. And it says she says, Beth Weller will never touch another piece of cake as long as she lives. Its taste mixed now and forever in her mind with the acrid bile and penny marinara that comes hurtling up her throat. What kind of animals could have done this? 6 simple words are written on the wall of the subway car. The words of the prophets are written on the subway. That's Rush. What kind of animals could have done this? 6 simple words are written on the wall of the subway car, scrawled in still warm blood for the glory of the kingdom. Across town, this is the place. The old-fashioned Acme Warehouse.
Acme Warehouse.
Classic supervillain hangout spot.
And I love this or not last, but I love this page. Like, I just love, again, the slits of eyes that Spawn has.
Oh, there's a Black Sabbath graffiti in there too. Hell yeah.
Medina has a different kind of eye acting with Spawn than Capullo did. Capullo was really good at those like big puppy eyes almost. Here,
these are a little different.
Yeah, and it really I think it really adds to the atmosphere of this book.
It works great. It really fits in with the more vampire style Spawn. Yeah. See, that's the thing. He's got a lot more Dracula-esque qualities, like this panel right here. Okay, the panel at the top of him narrowing his eyes and then finally being able to perceive the tower again.
Yeah,
almost feels like him trying to see a magic eye or something like that. You know, I love the panel after that though, of him arching over in his cape, almost like the cape looking like a wave, and his eyes like starting to like rumble with energy. And it says, reaching into the very heart of himself to deepest reserves of power, he pauses for a moment, a calm before the storm, and he unleashes this like mega energy blast, his like Kamehameha fucking like monster Saiyan double fisted energy. He unleashes the very fury of hell. The blast lights up the night like some alien sun. He pours everything he has into the onslaught, a torrent of pure hellfire that can melt the gates of St. Peter himself. But there's nothing, not a scratch on the vampire hideout. The old Acme Warehouse stands.
And then the vampires show up, and I love their, you can huff and puff, but you can't blow our house down. They appear out of nowhere, banshee swift and thirsting for blood.
Love that. Banshee swift, what a great line.
So cool. They're impossibly fast and unimaginably strong. They bombarded him like locusts, like an Old Testament plague. We're doing a lot more Bible stuff lately, but it's really working. Like if you're just gonna try to give some stakes and some gravitas to this, yeah, do it.
It builds the context really well.
Totally.
It fills out a lot of missing context. And I like that it's become more clear to us as it's become more clear to Spawn over the years. I assume it's become more clear to the creators as well as we've honed on it. But that's the kind of evolution you want from long-term storytelling. 100%. You want to feel it grow with you. So Spawn, they're all leaping on him. They're trying to suck his plasms, not the way Angela does it. And we get this great panel on the side of him like fully extending his body and swinging his arms wide, his cape like this huge wave, and the chains all over the place, throwing them off. But who should show up but Simon Pure? He says,
my friend, you are early. And this is a badass last page.
It is. It's him holding his sword out. The perspective on the sword is so fucking good. I gotta say, Angel Medina, much like Greg Capullo before, his style is really starting to coalesce. His voice, his own like kind of ideals are coming through, but also lining up with that style of Spawn before. That's why you should read these comics, because there's cool stuff. They're cool. These were cool comics. And I know we don't have too much back matter today, so we can go right into
final thoughts.
Final thoughts is this is a fun arc. I'm really enjoying it. This is the kind of story arc that is elevating characters that already existed for me. It's making Ab and Zab really cool. And Wolfram, I kind of love Severed Head Wolfram. Like, there's just something about it where it's like, okay, now he's enough of an underdog that like, I also like his vampire look better. He looks a little less Wolfman Jack.
Yeah, I'm just having a good time. Like,
Yeah.
I called out earlier that I was like, oh, this kind of feels like a Hellboy or like a Cerebus in the sense that you can kind of read it anywhere and not
Yeah.
really have to worry about continuity. And this feels like I want to just give somebody the 7 issues of the Kingdom and be like, I don't know, man. If you don't like this, you don't fucking like Spawn. Like this shit's
Yeah,
just
that's a
fucking
pretty sick
cool.
Spawn epic. It is. It's just cool. And I think for a lot of people, I think when they look at the breadth of comics that are available and the number of comics that have hundreds and hundreds of issues and the concept of which issues matter, I get why people want to jump around a little bit. But I also think I don't need these comics to be more than fun to read and cool. I don't need every issue to feel like it's an important stepping stone on the next thing, because the issues that you don't think will be, a lot of the time are the ones that really wind up mattering down the road, that you'll get so much more context from them. And frankly, like you said, they're frankly, like you said, they're just fun, cool comics. Like, this is just cool Spawn shit. Spawn is doing cool shit. The side characters are doing cool shit. The villains are kind of cool. Simon Pure is growing on me through this arc. Like, the vampire stuff, the
We're feeling
Christian
some
vampire
stakes.
stuff.
We're
Yeah,
feeling
stakes.
nice. We're feeling some stakes though for minor characters, right? Like
Right.
Spawn has less stakes as the hero, but Twitch has huge stakes here. Like this is really sad for him. It's
Yeah,
so sad for him, and he is so central that Sam, for us, who's read 110 issues now, Sam really falls back. But
yeah.
we still understand his role in the story. Yeah, I don't know how you could say like I don't want to read this.
The only reason not to, I think, is if you're trying to just skip around and read the most important stories. I would argue, though, that a lot of the times for comics, the really most important stories are the ones that just happen in the comic. Fucking Craven's Last Hunt is a story that just was a Spider-Man story. It
Yeah.
wasn't intended as like the next great event. It was just intended as, let's do a great fucking Craven story. Let's do a great story about this concept we developed earlier about this Christian vampire cult and this, like, the kingdom or whatever. That is an idea that I liked less back then, and I like more now because of how it's working in this story. And I like how they went in and they were like, they have this twisted cult that believes Jesus was a vampire and that they've been vampires since the 12 disciples. Is that what really happened? I like that we don't have to know. That's the lore that this vampire cult tells itself.
Yeah, I think like codifying these things sort of over time and yes-anding them instead of just being like, okay, that didn't work. We're going to throw it away. Hellspawn did this incredibly well with Cygor,
Right.
right? Cygor, he got like, did he get decapitated or taken away by the government or whatever the fuck happened? And then like he pops up again and you're like, oh shit, wait, oh fuck, they got him, but he got free. Oh, they have to hunt him down again. Oh,
It
they're
was
gonna
just
do
the
this to
Cygor
him.
story we were waiting for, and that just shows that, like, you never know which issues and which story you're going to pick up those threads that maybe hadn't gotten their due before or didn't quite work before. We talk about Claremont's X-Men, but that's just the game. Like, that's how you do it when you're writing comics for so long. You have to.
You know, I we're not shy about being X-Men fans in general, but
No, not at all.
when I think about there, first of all, there's nobody that got to do it like Claremont, and there will be nobody that gets to do it like that again.
Yeah.
We've gotten long runs from other creators for 50, 60 issues, but
Yeah.
not for 16, 17 years. Uh,
Yeah.
and with something like this where it is kind of essentially still coming from Todd and it is this kind of long running story. I mean, he gets to kind of be the only guy that gets to say like I guided this for the same amount of time. I will say that the big difference is, and I think we would have seen sooner payoffs, and we've said this before, is you need really great editors. And
Yes.
as much as I think that Tom Warzikowski has like held it together as the copy editor slash letterer, for those first 100 issues. I think he held it together. I don't think he was like, you forgot about this. You forgot about this. Do this. I'm going to point you here. And Annie Nocenti and Wheezy, Louise Simonson, really guided Claremont's X-Men to be what it is and to allow themselves to yes and his own stories, right?
Right.
It was a different era, so it's impossible to kind of like actually compare, but it's really hard to compare long running stories. The thing I guess we could most compare Spawn to is Savage Dragon.
That's fair. I mean, in a
And
lot of
that is a
ways.
different podcast that you, dear listener, should start about Savage Dragon.
You can do Savage Dragography. That would be cool. I actually think that would be a really interesting podcast.
I think it would
Maybe
too.
it's out there somewhere and I haven't seen it, but I'll tell you what, I would probably rather listen to that podcast than read the comic.
Yeah, agreed. Especially knowing some of the things that happen in that book.
Yeah, it's a wild ride.
But that said, I thought that I was going to be... Listen, I think that I started to lose a little bit of momentum after we got out of 100. And then we got into Hellspawn, and that kind of got me going again. And now we're here, and I'm jazzed up.
We're having a great time. I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason not to read these comics. That's what I'll say. There's no reason to skip this. It's not a matter of quality. It's not a matter of the art or writing being good, because they're great, really engaging, really good. If you like Spawn and you like the mechanics of a Spawn story, you'll like this.
I think
and
also
we're going hard. Go ahead.
People really love Capullo.
That's true.
And I think that just works against Medina. And I think Medina wasn't great at the top, but has figured it out with a team of inkers that also have known where to...
I think it's a combination of two things.
Massage it.
I think you're right about that 100%. I think it's a matter of Medina realizing the trappings, the visual language of Spawn, like getting into that a little deeper, while also having more room to then hone how he approaches these things. His Spawn is looking so much more distinctive every issue. Much like Greg Capullo had his Spawn, and Ashley Wood had his Spawn, and Ben Templesmith had his Spawn, Angel Medina has his version of the character, and it's cool. I'll admit, much like when we first started with Capullo, I even knew Angel Medina's work less. I'm sure I've seen it and everything, but it's just not work I've dug into. And here, I'm really enjoying it. I think he's a worthy successor. I think it pushes the book forward. I think it's good.
You want to know who I'm missing? Weirdly, I'm missing Chance Wolf.
You know, I liked his inks quite a bit when we managed to see them. I think some of the tones of what he's doing are coming through here. There were some spots in these issues in particular with some of the shots of Spawn's face and his eyes where I was like, we're getting some of that inking style.
I think that the Crime Lab Studios team and all the inkers on this are definitely taking the note and being like, oh, that shit looks really cool. But man, the pages that we could call out as Chance Wolf pages were so
pretty cool.
They were so incredible, and I have been kind of missing his presence a little bit over the last few issues. I hope he comes back. We'll see. But
yeah,
and also he may be part of that Crime Lab Studios credit. He maybe just didn't do enough that they gave him his name on the book.
Right.
But and so if that's the case, then I hope that you inked all of the ones of the close-ups on Spawn's face. And if you did, that would make a lot of sense.
If not, I think that the style that he uses is definitely coming through.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the other thing that I'm loving about this book is it's becoming such this amalgam of what it's been before. This is a bunch of creators who have looked at everything that's come before. Now, granted, compared to like 900 issues of Spider-Man, like you can't encapsulize 900 issues of Spider-Man in issue 992.
You can't. And there's impossible. So many, yeah.
But right now in Spawn, where there's been only a few singular voices who have been the largest artistic influences, I think that the art team is being like, we have to do a little bit of that, and we're going to do and then we're going to take that and we're going to try to push it into our thing, and we're going to try and do something new. And I'm excited because I haven't felt that Medina's done anything super new yet, but he's learning. He's very much like learned the language and
Yeah,
is spitting it out in his own style.
exactly. And I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. So, anyway, before we go, do you have any recommendations for our listeners this
I
week?
have one recommendation. Well, I
Great.
recommended weapons up top. Rarely am I going to ever suggest anything to do with social media because I think it's fucking terrible for your
But you
brain.
started a new platform.
No. Yeah, it's called Doinkler. Um, no, I will recommend an Instagram account. There may also be other accounts. I only see it on Instagram. The Instagram account is for a cat named Gumbus. Do you know of Gumbus? Have you ever
I
seen
don't know about
Gumbus?
Gumbus.
Gumbus is a little cat who was found as a kitten by these people who had terrible congenital defects with her teeth and her eyes. She basically had to have all her teeth removed as a kitten. She has these big, huge bug out eyes, but she is the sweetest, most adorable cat, and they always dress her in little outfits, and she has so much fun. And these people that take care of her love her very much, and it just makes me feel happy. First off, that a living thing that needed so much love and help got that love and help. And also, I just love cats, and seeing a funny, cute cat doing silly things makes my day better. So, Gumbus, it's GUMBU.S. It's weird that I would recommend a social media page for a cat, but here I am. It's something that brings me a little bit of joy in my day.
Hell yeah. I love that. I over the weekend I went to an art show
Mm,
that a friend of mine did. It was like a wheat paste of a bunch of like baseball legends and other people. It's up in
interesting.
Williamsburg. It may be down by the time that this happens. But I did. There were randomly comic books on the on the table, and I was like, "What is this?" And this guy walked up. So I'm going to recommend Ian Cinco. So
Nice.
in this case, it's going to be another Instagram that you should follow, Ian underscore Cinco. But he's another just indie comics person doing his own thing. I really like his art. His book is called Neon Spring, kind of
Oh, yeah.
a more adult cyberpunk kind of thing. I have the first issue. It's pretty solid.
Nice.
And it's getting a relaunch soon, though. It's an issue 0, so it's getting
Mm,
sort of an official issue 1 at some point
gotcha.
soon. But Ian Cinco, that's my recommendation for this week.
Nice. Love that.
Well, we have gone on so many tangents that we've been here for a while.
Yeah.
So, my dear friend George, I have one last thing to say to you.
Ironic given this issue.
For Todd so loved the world,
He gave his only begotten spawn.
see you later, Hellspawn.
Spawnography!